The padlock clicked shut with a sound that echoed through the canyon like a death sentence. Karen Martinez stood frozen behind the steel gate she'd installed to block hikers from her trail. But now the tables had turned. The deed in Marcus Chen's weathered hands proved what she'd never bothered to check. She'd been trespassing on his land for 3 years. As her Range Rover sat trapped on the wrong side of the fence and her phone showed no signal, Karen realized that sometimes karma doesn't just knock ... it builds a cage. The morning sun cast long shadows across Pine Ridge Trail as Marcus Chen approached the familiar bend where the path curved around Devil's Point. He'd been hiking this route every Tuesday and Thursday for 8 years. Ever since, his cardiologist recommended regular exercise after his mild heart attack. The trail had become his sanctuary, a place where the stress of running his small accounting firm melted away with each footfall on the packed earth. But today, something was wrong. A gleaming steel gate blocked the trail, secured with a heavy-duty padlock. A freshly painted sign hung from the bars. Private property. No trespassing violators will be prosecuted. Marcus stared at the obstruction, his hiking boots scuffing against the gravel as he stopped short. His breath came in short puffs in the crisp October air. This section of trail had been public access for decades. He'd checked the county records himself when he'd first started hiking here, being the methodical type who liked to know his rights. "Excuse me?" Marcus turned to see a woman in expensive athleisure were striding toward him, her blonde hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail that bounced with each aggressive step. She wore pristine white sneakers that had clearly never seen actual dirt, and her yoga pants probably cost more than Marcus spent on groceries in a month. "You can't be here," she announced, stopping just close enough to invade his personal space. Her voice carried the particular tone of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Without question, "I'm sorry." Marcus adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, genuinely confused. "This is a public trail. I hike here twice a week." The woman's perfectly contoured face twisted into a sneer. "Not anymore, it isn't. This is private property now, and you're trespassing." She gestured imperiously at the gate. "Can't you read?" Marcus felt heat rise in his chest, but he kept his voice level. "Ma'am, I think there's been a mistake. This trail connects to the National Forest. It's been public access since the 1970s. Are you calling me a liar?" Her voice pitched higher, and Marcus could see other hikers on the trail below, turning to look up at them. "I'm Karen Martinez, and I own this land. I have every right to protect my property from people like you. People like me." The words came out sharper than Marcus intended. Karen's eyes narrowed as she looked him up and down, taking in his practical hiking gear and weathered backpack. Transients, vagrants, people who think they can just wander wherever they please without permission. She pulled out her phone and held it up threateningly. "I'm documenting this trespass. If you don't leave immediately, I'm calling the sheriff." Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest that his doctor had warned him about. Stress was his enemy now, but this woman was pushing every button he had. "Ma'am, I'm not a vagrant. I'm a small business owner, and I've been hiking this trail for 8 years. If you have legal documentation showing this is private property, I'd be happy to see it. I don't have to show you anything." Karen's voice carried across the canyon. Now, echoing off the rock walls, "This is America, and property rights matter. I worked hard for what I have, and I'm not going to let some entitled hiker think he can just entitled." Marcus's voice finally cracked. "You put up a gate blocking public access, and I'm entitled. Yes? You think you can just show up here with your little backpack and your attitude and demand to use my land? Well, guess what? Those days are over." Karen's finger jabbed toward him with each word. "I've had it with you people thinking you can just take whatever you want." Marcus stared at her, processing the venom in her voice. He'd encountered difficult people in his accounting practice, but this level of hostility over a hiking trail seemed pathological. "Ma'am, I don't want to take anything. I just want to continue on the trail I've been using for years. If there's been a property transfer, perhaps we can work something out." "Work something out?" Karen's laugh was harsh and grating. "With you? I don't think so. I moved here to get away from people exactly like you. I paid good money for peace and quiet, and that includes not having random strangers tramping through my backyard." "This isn't your backyard," Marcus said quietly. "This is a mountain trail that serves the entire community." "Not anymore." Karen's smile was cold and victorious. "I've already filed complaints with the county about the noise, the litter, the damage to vegetation. Do you know what it's like trying to meditate on my deck while listening to hikers clomping around like elephants?" Marcus looked past her toward the ridge where expensive homes perched on carved-out shelves of rock. Karen's house was visible through the trees, a massive glass and steel structure that looked like it had been airlifted from Malibu. "You built a house on a mountain and you're complaining about nature sounds? Don't get smart with me." Karen stepped closer, her voice dropping to a threatening hiss. "I have rights, I have lawyers, and I have money. 3 things you clearly don't have, or you wouldn't be out here bothering me." The accusation hit Marcus like a physical blow. He thought of his small apartment above his accounting office, his 10-year-old Honda Civic, the lunch he'd packed in a repurposed yogurt container. Karen wasn't wrong about the money, but she was wrong about everything else. "You know what your problem is?" Karen continued, emboldened by his silence. "You think the world owes you something. You think you can just show up wherever you want and demand access. Well, welcome to reality. Some of us actually work for what we have." Marcus felt something shift inside him, a cold clarity replacing the hot anger. "And what work is that, exactly?" Karen's eyes flashed. "Excuse me? What work do you do? What's your contribution to society that allows you to buy mountain property and gate off public trails? That's none of your business. I'm just curious," Marcus said conversationally, "because you seem to know so much about my work ethic and my entitlement. I'm wondering what gives you the moral authority to judge." Karen's face flushed red. "I don't have to justify myself to some random creep on a hiking trail, but I have to justify my existence to you. Yes, because you're on my property." Marcus pulled out his phone and opened the county assessor's app. "What's the parcel number?" "What?" "The parcel number for the property. I'd like to verify the ownership records." Karen's confidence flickered for just a moment. "I don't have to give you that information." "No, you don't," Marcus agreed. "But if you're going to accuse me of trespass, I have the right to verify the property boundaries." He held up his phone. "GPS coordinates show this trail is on parcel 38479214. What parcel do you own?" "Stop trying to intimidate me with your phone." Karen snatched at his device, but Marcus pulled it back. "I'm not intimidating anyone. I'm verifying property records, which are public information. I'm calling the sheriff right now." Karen had her own phone out, fingers jabbing at the screen. "There's a man here harassing me on my property." Marcus watched her make the call, noting how her story changed in the telling. She was no longer just asking him to leave now, he was threatening her, following her, making her fear for her safety. By the time she hung up, Marcus had been transformed from a confused hiker into a dangerous stalker. "They'll be here in 20 minutes, Karen announced triumphantly. "We'll see who's right about property ownership then." Marcus nodded calmly. "Good. I'd like to speak with them too." The next 20 minutes passed in hostile silence. Karen positioned herself between Marcus and the gate, as if guarding against his escape, while Marcus sat on a boulder and studied his phone. He pulled up the county GIS system and began cross-referencing parcel numbers, property transfers, and ownership records. What he found made his blood run cold. When Deputy Rodriguez arrived, hiking up the trail in full uniform, both Karen and Marcus began talking at once. "Officer, thank God you're here," Karen gushed. "This man has been harassing me and threatening me on my property. I asked him to leave politely, but he refused." "Deputy," Marcus interrupted, "I'd like to file a complaint about an illegal gate blocking public access to this trail." Deputy Rodriguez held up his hands. "One at a time. Ma'am, can I see some identification and proof of property ownership?" Karen handed over her driver's license confidently, but hesitated when asked for the deed. "It's at home, but this is clearly my property. I have a gate and everything." Sir Rodriguez turned to Marcus. Marcus handed over his ID, then pulled up his phone. "Deputy, I've been researching the property records while we waited. This trail is on county parcel 384-79214, which shows no private ownership. It's designated as public access easement. That's ridiculous." Karen's voice pitched high again. "I live right there." She pointed to her house. "This is obviously part of my property." Deputy Rodriguez looked at Marcus's phone, then at Karen. "Ma'am, what parcel number is your residence on?" Karen's face went blank. I don't memorize numbers like that. Marcus discovered the new gate on Thursday morning, and this time Karen had upgraded. The steel bars were thicker, the padlock military grade, and a security camera perched on top like a mechanical vulture. But it was the new sign that made his jaw clench. Dangerous TRAIL, unstable ROCKS. Enter at your own risk, property owner, not liable for injuries or death. Below that, in smaller print, dedicated hikers. Welcome to use alternate routes. Available at Mountain Vista Trail Association. Website? Marcus pulled out his phone and checked the website. The alternate routes added 6 miles and 1,200 feet of elevation gain to what had been a moderate 3-mile loop. For someone with his heart condition, it might as well have been Everest. He was photographing the illegal gate when Karen emerged from the trees like she'd been waiting. Well, she said, arms crossed over her designer hiking vest. If it isn't my favorite trespasser, the deputy told you to remove this gate, Marcus said evenly. The deputy told me to remove the first gate. This is a completely different gate installed after I had my property lines professionally surveyed. Karen's smile was sharp as broken glass. Turns out there was an error in the county records. This trail actually cuts right through the corner of my property. Marcus felt that familiar chest tightness. You're lying, am I? Karen pulled out a folder thick with official-looking documents. Fresh survey from Morrison & Associates filed with the county yesterday. The original easement was based on a 1974 survey that used incorrect markers. The corrected boundary puts 50 feet of this trail on my land. Marcus grabbed the papers, scanning them quickly. The letterhead looked legitimate, the technical language dense and convincing. But something felt wrong. This survey cost you thousands of dollars. Why would you spend that much money over a hiking trail? Because I don't like being humiliated by county deputies. Karen's mask slipped for a moment, revealing the raw fury underneath. Because I don't like being made to look like a fool in front of some nobody accountant. So this is personal. Everything's personal. Marcus Chen of Chen & Associates Accounting. Apartment to be above your office on Pine Street. Karen watched his face change as she recited his address. See, I do my research too, especially on people who embarrass me. The chill that ran down Marcus's spine had nothing to do with the October morning air. You had me investigated. I had you Googled. Karen's laugh was cruel. Amazing what you can find out about someone online. Your business license, your address, your Yelp reviews, which aren't great, by the way, 2.5 stars. Adequate, but not impressive. Ouch. Marcus felt heat rising in his cheeks. Those reviews were from a difficult year when he'd been overwhelmed and made some mistakes. He'd worked hard to rebuild his reputation since then. I also found your divorce records, Karen continued, circling him like a predator. Patricia Chen married 15 years, divorced 3 years ago. Let me guess she got tired of your mediocre lifestyle. Decided she deserved better than a struggling accountant. Stop. The word came out strangled. Filed for divorce right after your heart attack, didn't she? Talk about kicking a man when he's down. But I suppose that's what happens when you can't provide the life a woman deserves. Marcus's hands shook as he gripped the survey documents. Patricia had left him when he needed her most, claiming his health scare had made her realize how little security he could offer. The wound was still raw, even 3 years later. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know she upgraded. Karen's voice dripped false sympathy. Saw her Facebook. Nice house in Scottsdale, new husband who's a surgeon, good for her. Recognizing she deserved better. The words hit like physical blows. Marcus had to consciously control his breathing, remembering Dr. Patel's warnings about stress and his heart. See, that's the difference between people like Patricia and me versus people like you, Karen continued. We understand that success requires sacrifice. Sometimes you have to step on a few people to get what you deserve. And what do you deserve? Marcus managed to ask. Peace, privacy. The right to enjoy my property without interference from bitter little men who can't accept that some people have more than they do. Marcus stared at her, seeing clearly for the first time what he was dealing with. Karen wasn't just entitled or ignorant, she was genuinely cruel. She'd researched his personal pain specifically to weaponize it. The trail stays closed, Karen announced. And if you keep harassing me about it, I'll file a restraining order. I have documentation of your threatening behavior. Remember." As she walked away, Marcus called out, "I'll contest the survey." Karen paused and looked back. "With what money?" "Legal challenges cost tens of thousands of dollars." "Can you afford that on an accountant's salary?" Her smile was pitying. "Some battles are only for people who can afford to fight them." That afternoon, Marcus sat in the law office of David Reyes, the only attorney in town who'd agreed to see him on short notice. Reyes was young, barely out of law school, working out of a converted storefront because he couldn't afford better. "The survey looks legitimate," Reyes admitted, studying Karen's documents. "Morrison and Associates is a reputable firm. If they're saying the original easement was incorrectly mapped, But it wasn't," Marcus insisted. "I've hiked that trail for 8 years. Other people have used it for decades. There are historical photos showing the trail in the exact same location." "Historical usage can establish a prescriptive easement," Reyes agreed, "but proving it requires extensive research, expert witnesses, historical documentation. We're talking about a $50,000 legal battle. Minimum." Marcus's heart sank. His entire savings account had maybe $8,000. "What about filing a complaint with the county?" "Already did. They're reviewing the new survey. But unless we can prove it's fraudulent, they'll likely accept it." Reyes leaned back in his chair. "I have to ask, is this really worth it? It's just a hiking trail. Just a hiking trail." Marcus thought about his morning walks, the way the canyon walls caught the sunrise. The peace he'd found in that routine, after his life fell apart. It wasn't just a trail, it was his lifeline. "What if I could prove the survey is fake?" Reyes perked up. "How? I don't know yet. But Karen Martinez struck me as someone who cuts corners when she thinks she can get away with it." Over the next week, Marcus threw himself into research with the same methodical intensity he brought to tax returns. He studied property records, historical surveys, even old aerial photographs from the county archives. He interviewed longtime residents, documenting their memories of the trail. He hiked every legal access point to the area, taking GPS readings and photographs. But the more he learned, the more impressive Karen's deception became. The survey wasn't fake, it was real, but based on a deliberate misinterpretation of boundary markers. Morrison and Associates had done exactly what they were paid to do: find a legal justification for Karen's claim. On Friday evening, Marcus was in his office above the accountancy, surrounded by maps and legal documents, when his computer chimed with an email notification. The sender was karen.martinez@email.com. The subject line read, "Friendly advice from a neighbor. Marcus, I hope you're enjoying your new hobby of amateur legal research. I have to say, watching you scurry around town interviewing old-timers and taking pictures has been quite entertaining. You remind me of a dog chasing its own tail, lots of effort, but ultimately pointless. I thought you might like to know that I've been keeping track of your activities. Did you know you spent 3 hours at the county recorder's office on Tuesday? Or that you had lunch with that Patterson woman who used to live in the canyon? I hope she had interesting stories about the good old days. Here's the thing, Marcus. I have resources you can't imagine. When I decided to close that trail, I didn't just hire 1 surveyor, hired 3. I didn't just research property lie, retained the best real estate attorney in the state. I didn't just file paperwork, I built relationships with county officials who understand the value of property rights. You, on the other hand, have a struggling accounting practice and a heart condition. This stress can't be good for your health. Patricia was smart to get out. When she did, she must have seen the signs of a man who doesn't know when he's beaten. I'm willing to make this easy for you. Stop your pathetic investigation. Accept that the trail is closed, and I'll let this end quietly. Keep pushing, and I'll make sure everyone in town knows exactly what kind of man you really are. I have connections, Marcus. People listen to me. Consider this your final warning. Best regards, Karen Martinez. P.S. You might want to check your business reviews online. Seems like you've gotten some new feedback. Marcus's hands trembled as he opened his Yelp page. 3 new 1-star reviews had appeared in the past hour, all from accounts created that day. Terrible service. Made errors on my taxes that cost me thousands in penalties. Seems distracted and unprofessional. Would not recommend. Inappropriate behavior toward female clients. Made me very uncomfortable. Cheap, but you get what you pay for. Missed obvious. deductions, and filed my return late. Had to hire someone else to fix his mistakes. Each review was detailed enough to seem credible, specific enough to be damaging. Marcus felt his chest constricting as he realized what Karen was doing. She wasn't just blocking. Marcus spent 3 days planning his approach, researching everything he could about Karen's background, her property, and most importantly, the land surrounding it. What he discovered changed everything. The key piece of the puzzle came from an obscure 1962 county document he found buried in the archives, a mineral rights lease that had never been properly terminated. The lease covered not just Karen's property, but a 400-acre tract that included the disputed trail, the ridge above her house, and most of the canyon floor. More importantly, the lease contained a reversion clause if the mineral rights were ever purchased outright. They came with surface access rights and first refusal on any property sales within the tract. The mineral rights were currently owned by Blackstone Mining Corp., a company that had been defunct since 1987. But defunct didn't mean dissolved. And Marcus's years of helping small businesses navigate bureaucratic tangles had taught him how to trace corporate ownership through layers of legal structure. It took him 4 phone calls and 2 days of research to find Harold Blackstone Jr., now 73 years old and living in a retirement community in Phoenix. Harold remembered the mining operation his father had started. And more importantly, he remembered the headaches of maintaining mineral rights he couldn't use due to environmental restrictions. "You want to buy them?" Harold's voice was incredulous. Over the phone, "Son, those rights haven't been worth anything for 30 years. "I'm not interested in mining," Marcus explained. "I need the surface access provisions." "Well, I'll be damned. Nobody's ever asked about those before." Harold chuckled. "What would you offer?" Marcus's savings account had $8,247.83. $8,000 for 400 acres of mineral rights. "Hell, you can have them for $5,000. I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers." The transaction took a week to complete. During that time, Marcus watched Karen's activities with growing anticipation. She was clearly accelerating her timeline. More staging consultants, professional photographers, and a new sign by her gate. Exclusive private estate trail access included. On the day the mineral rights transfer was finalized, Marcus drove to Karen's house and knocked on her front door. When she answered, her face cycled through surprise, annoyance, and barely contained rage. "What the hell are you doing here?" she demanded. "I told you to stay away from my property." Marcus held up a manila folder. "I'd like to make you an offer." Karen's eyes narrowed. "An offer to buy your house." For a moment, Karen just stared at him. Then she burst into laughter, genuine, delighted laughter. You want to buy my house?" She wiped tears from her eyes. "Marcus, my house is worth $3.2 million. You can't even afford a lawyer." "I know exactly what your house is worth," Marcus said calmly. "And I know why you're selling it." Karen's laughter died. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. The exclusive trail access adds about $600,000 to the value, doesn't it? That's a nice profit on your investment in fraudulent surveys and illegal gates. You need to leave now." Karen started to close the door, but Marcus stepped forward. "I'm offering you full asking price," he said. $3.2 million. Cash. The door stopped moving. Karen stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "You're insane. I'm serious." Marcus pulled out a cashier's check and held it up. "Funds. Good as cash." Karen snatched the check from his hands, her eyes widening as she read the amount. This is real. Completely real. There's just one small condition." "What condition?" Karen's voice was suspicious, but Marcus could see the greed flickering in her eyes. "The sale has to close within 48 hours. No inspections, no contingencies, no delays. You take the money and walk away clean." Karen studied the check again, then looked at Marcus with new respect. "Where did you get this kind of money? Does it matter? The question is, are you interested?" "Why the rush?" Marcus shrugged. "I'm a decisive person. When I want something, I don't hesitate." He paused. "Of course, if you'd rather wait for the regular market, deal with inspections and loan approvals and all the usual hassles, ... Double quotes, no," Karen said quickly. "No, I'm interested, but I want to verify this check first. Of course, call the bank." Marcus handed her a business card. Asked for Janet Morrison in private banking. She's expecting your call. While Karen went inside to make the call, Marcus walked around her property, taking in the view from her deck, the professional landscaping, the obvious expense of every detail. It was beautiful, he had to admit, but it was built on a foundation of cruelty and fraud. Karen emerged from the house 20 minutes later, her demeanor completely changed. "The check is legitimate," she said, her voice breathless with excitement. "Janet confirmed, you have the funds. So we have a deal. We have a deal." Karen extended her hand, and Marcus shook it, sealing what she believed was her greatest triumph. The closing took place the next afternoon at the office of Karen's attorney, a sharp-dressed man named Richards who seemed puzzled by the speed of the transaction, but happy to collect his fees. Karen had been practically bouncing with excitement. All day, talking about her plans to move to Costa Rica, maybe buy a beach house, finally live the life she deserved. "I have to say," she told Marcus as they signed papers, "I'm impressed. I didn't think you had it in you. What are you going to do with the place? Seems like a lot." "Of house for a bachelor? Oh, I have some ideas for improvements." After the papers were signed and the deed transferred, Karen stood in the parking lot beside her packed Range Rover, practically vibrating with triumph. "You know what the funny part is?" she said to Marcus. "You just paid me $3.2 million for the privilege of keeping that trail closed. The mineral rights and easements transfer with the property, so congratulations, you're now responsible for maintaining my gate." Marcus smiled. "What? I lied about the mineral rights transferring with the property." Karen's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" Marcus pulled out another manila folder. "See, I did some research after our first meeting. Your property is subject to a 1962 mineral rights lease that was never properly terminated. The company that holds those rights has surface access provisions and first refusal on property sales. That's impossible. My lawyer would have found something like that." Marcus opened the folder and handed her a document. "Blackstone Mining Corp. Look familiar?" Karen scanned the paper, her face going pale. "This is ... This says that I own the mineral rights to your former property, along with 400 acres surrounding it, including surface access rights and the right to approve or reject any property use that might interfere with mining operations. But there's no mining here, not yet. But mineral rights include the right to access the surface for transportation and recreation purposes related to mining operations." That's a direct quote from the lease agreement. Karen's hands shook as she read further. "This can't be legal. It's completely legal. Your lawyer should have caught it during due diligence, but since you were in such a hurry to close," Marcus shrugged. "I guess these things happen. You tricked me. I offered you exactly what you asked for. $3.2 million, no inspections, fast closing. You got everything you wanted." Karen's face was turning red. "I'll sue you. This is fraud." Actually, the fraud was yours. Blocking public trails to inflate property values, commissioning fake surveys, harassment, defamation. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her a recording app. "Did you know? This conversation is being recorded. Amazing what people will admit when they think they've won. You can't record me without consent. Actually, I can. Single-party consent state. Everything you just told me about maintaining the gate, keeping the trail closed, that's evidence of ongoing fraud." Karen stared at him, the full scope of her situation finally sinking in. "What do you want? Nothing from you. You got your money, fair and square. But I do have some improvements planned for the property." Marcus walked to his truck and returned with a crowbar and bolt cutters. Karen watched in horror as he approached the gate that had started everything. "You can't do that. That's my gate. Actually, it's my gate now, and since I own the mineral rights, I have unrestricted surface access." Marcus cut through the padlock with a satisfying snap. "The funny thing about mineral rights is they supersede pretty much everything else. Zoning, easements, even homeowner preferences." The gate swung open with a rusty creak. Marcus pulled out his phone and took a photo of the clear trail beyond. "You're insane," Karen whispered. "No, I'm methodical. You see, while you were busy researching my personal life and trying to destroy my business, I was researching property law and mineral rights and corporate structures. You focused on causing pain. I focused on solving problems. Marcus walked back to his truck and returned with a new sign, which he posted where Karen's gate had been. Public trail access restored. Hiking welcome. Blackstone Mining Corp surface rights. This isn't over, Karen said, but her voice lacked, I have my trail. Everyone gets what they deserve. Marcus paused at his truck door. Oh, and Karen,